Good afternoon, children. So, today we are once again with the last part of the chapter Federalism. So, children, in a previous class we discussed about the different aspects of the chapter Federalism. In the first part we discussed about, today I think it is just a revision class or the conclusion class of this chapter. In the previous class we discussed about what is federalism? In that we discussed about the federalism. Federalism is a form of government in which is a system of government in which power is divided between the central authority and the different units. That is decentralization. A division of power is done. In that we discussed about how federalism is practiced in our country, in which we discussed about federalism is practiced by linguistic state, in which we discussed that in linguistic states, the states of our country are divided on the basis of language. And you know very well how they are divided on the basis of language. In Punjab, people speak Punjabi. In Gujarat, they speak Gujarati. And like this, the states are divided on the basis of linguistic difference. Second, we discussed about the language policy. In language policy, we discussed that Hindi was the official language. Though Hindi and English was decided official language, still there are 22 registered language in our country. You can give exams in any of this language. We also discussed about the flexibility in the case of language policy, that we did not give importance to any one language. We did not follow a rigid policy like Sri Lanka in case of language policy, and our government gives importance to each and every language. Then we discussed about the central state relationship. Many students have doubt that how federalism is linked with central state relationship. So today we will revise once again that how central state relationship is linked with federalism. Children, by teaching you this, I told you that you just go in your back in history. Just after independence, if you read the books, if you go through the books, you will find that in past, only one party was the leading party in our country, and that party played a very important role in a freedom struggle. The name of that party was Indian National Congress. And after independence, you see that when Jawaharlal Nehru became a prime minister, he belonged to that party. And you know very well that many other parties, at present you see there are regional parties also, and many parties have emerged. But in past, only Congress party was there and just communist was there. But then also it did not have so much importance. So Congress party was dominant in past. And you see that for many years, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Mrs. Indira Gandhi and various other leaders, they belong to Congress party. In between, Morarji Desai, he became Prime Minister for some years. He belonged to Janata Party. And Bharatiya Janata Party came into existence in 80s. But for many years, Congress ruled our country continuously for many years. So just imagine, though we decided in our constitution that federalism will be followed, federalism will be practiced. But if, just understand, if the same party rules in center and state, willingly or unwillingly, directly or indirectly, they have interference in those states. In past, suppose when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister or when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, mostly the Chief Minister of all the states, they belong to Congress Party. So it's natural that if they belong to Congress Party, if they rule different states, though they are independent of center, though central government do not interfere, but their policies, children, they will match, they will be same as the center. Their policy, their ideology, because in states also Congress Party was there, their ideology, their way of ruling, it was just same as center. So federalism was there, but it was not fairly practiced. Mostly we saw that Mrs. Indira Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, directly or indirectly, they interfered in the internal matters of state. So in past, the federal system was there, it was not practiced in 100%. But these things started happening. Fair federalism started when the era of coalition government came into existence, or when regional parties they started emerging in India, because when Congress did not come to power, mostly when BJP came to power in 80s or when Janata Dal came to power, they did not come in full majority. At present, the situation is Mr. Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister. He has become Prime Minister 2 times, but with full majority. But in past, when Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister or VP Singh was the Prime Minister, they belonged to Janata Party, they belonged to BJP, but they did not come to power with full majority, and they had to take support of regional parties. And children, if you take support of any party, you have to follow, you have to just follow the direction of those parties. So in taking any decisions, they had to take advice of regional parties. And most of these regional parties rule the state also. So naturally, if they rule the state, take for example, in Bihar at that time, Rajat was ruling. And when Rajat was ruling at that time, and suppose in center, BJP was there, what will happen? The Rajat party, they did not take any advice of the center, and they practiced their own rules and regulation. That is why we see that when different parties rule in center and state, what happens? Federalism is practiced in a proper way, because both they take decision independently, isn't it? So how federalism is being practiced? It totally depends upon the relationship between central and state. Which parties are ruling in central and state? You can take the current example also. At present, you see in Punjab, Congress party is ruling. In Rajasthan, Congress party is ruling. In these states, the decisions are taken independently. They don't allow any interference of center. But to take example of Uttar Pradesh, you take example of Gujarat, directly or indirectly, you see that many a times that Amit Shah involves in taking decision of those states. So where the parties are same in center and state, what happens? Federalism is there, but there are some constraints in there. So this is known as what? Central state relationship. Many children were having confusion in this. So I've cleared it. If again you have any confusion, we'll clear in our next class or during revision. So children, this was the point how federalism is being practiced. Then we discussed about what makes India a federal country. Always children, you don't get confused. If in exam the question comes that how federalism is being practiced, you have to write these 3 points. Linguistic state, language policy, and the next is central state relationship. And if question comes that what makes India a federal country, then you have to write in India federalism is being practiced. It makes a federal country in 3 ways. That is, the power is divided between union list, state list and concurrent list. And fourth is residuary powers. This makes India a federal country. And the last point that we were discussing in a previous class was decentralization. What is decentralization? Decentralization is when power is taken away from central government and divided in other constituent units. That is state and other units. That is panchayats. It is known as decentralization. Now, why there was need of decentralization? That also we discussed in a previous class. Need of decentralization is because in our country the villages are as large as the states. There is lot of diversities in our country. So Prime Minister or Chief Minister alone cannot solve all the local problems of the villages. And for this purpose, the provision of decentralization and Panchayati Raj was done in our constitution. Our constitution makers, they said that what should happen? Decentralization and division of power should be done. But it was not done just after independence. But this was implemented in 1992 by a constitutional amendment. And in this amendment, certain provisions were done. And these provisions were, now the elections to panchayats were made compulsory. And in that, some seats were reserved for Scheduled Caste Scheduled Tribes and for women also. A separate state election commission was established to see whether elections are held at a proper way in panchayats or at local levels or not. And the sources of revenue was separately given to this local self-government. So these were the different provisions which were made in the constitutional amendments of 1992. And this amendment, this Panchayati Raj, was introduced by a late Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. Children, this is not given in a book, but you should know for your knowledge. We have discussed in the last class, and now today we'll proceed with how the formation of local self-government is done. Now children, these things you have studied in class 6th also. This is just a revision of what you have studied. Just pay attention. I have given you this in a graph form in your notes also. Just you go through it and you see it, and just if you have just now you open it, you will understand. I have given you in graph also in your notes that I have posted in the video. Children, the local self-government is divided into two parts. Rural local self-government and urban local self-government. Now this rural local self-government has three tiers. The lowest tier is Gram Panchayat. Now what is this Gram Panchayat? Gram Panchayat is there at the village level. Gram Panchayat is elected body which is elected directly by the people of the villages, the adult population of the villages. And the adult population of the villages, they elect this body Gram Panchayat by giving votes. And the adult population of the village which elect this Gram Panchayat, they are known as Gram Sabha. This Gram Sabha directly elects the Gram Panchayat. And this Gram Panchayat, what is their work? Their work is to look after the developmental activities of the villages. Whether water facilities is good or not, irrigation facilities available or not. People of village, if they are having any problem, they solve it. And for this, they get funds from the state government. And now children, what does Gram Sabha do? This Gram Sabha, as they elect the Gram Panchayat, they see whether this Gram Panchayat is working in a proper way or not. They supervise the activity of the Gram Panchayat and they check the annual budget. Now this is regarding the Gram Panchayat, which is the lowest tier of the rural local self-government. Now after this Gram Panchayat comes Block Samiti. Now this Gram Panchayat, what they do? They elect the Block Samiti. And this Block Samiti is combination of many Gram Panchayat which comes in one area. So the combination of group of Gram Panchayats in one district, they form Block Samiti. And the combination of Block Samiti in a district, they form Zilla Parishad. Now this Block Samiti or Panchayat Samiti, the people of Block Samiti and Panchayat Samiti, they elect the Zilla Parishad. And the head of the Zilla Parishad is known as Zilla Parishad Chairperson. And the head of Gram Panchayat is known as Sarpanch or Mukhya. So like this, the three-tier system at the lowest level Gram Panchayat, then combination of Gram Panchayat, Block Samiti and combination of Block Samiti, Zilla Parishad. And in Zilla Parishad, children, you should know that different MLAs of that district, they also come in Zilla Parishad. The Zilla Parishad is an elected body which looks after the development of the district. Now children, this we have discussed about the rural local self-government which is also known as Panchayati Raj. Now next we will discuss is urban local self-government. Urban local self-government consists of municipality and municipal corporation. Municipalities are most of found in the small towns which are not densely populated, and the head of municipality is known as municipality chairperson. Next is municipal corporation. Municipal corporation, Nagar Nigam, they come in the big cities or metros. And the head of municipal corporation is known as mayor. Mayor is also an elected person who has been elected by the votes of the people living in that area. Now we have discussed about the local self-government, that is urban and rural. After this, we'll discuss about local self-government has come into existence. They're working properly, but then also there are various drawbacks. The drawbacks are still the elections. They are made compulsory also, but they are not held in a proper way. We see the many cases of corruption. Though state election commission has been appointed, but then also in many places still fair elections are not done. The resources or the revenue which is there with the local self-government, they are not used in a proper way. We see many tales of corruption. You would have read in newspaper that many of the sarpanches are in jail because they don't use the funds in a proper way. And you see that reservations are being given to women in panchayats, but in reality, they just contest election, but they don't use any decision-making power. Mostly the male members in their families, they just they just give a chance to the female members, just their name, but the work is done by the male members. They are just like a puppet, but the decision making body in that is the male members. So we cannot say that reservation has helped a lot at the local self-government. It should be seen that the educated ladies, the educated women, they should be given a chance to contest election. Mostly it is seen in our country in panchayat election, in villages, illiterate women, they contest election. They don't take any decision. The decisions are taken by the male members. So, lot of work is required at a root level to make panchayats successful and to give power to the local self-government. So, today we have discussed about decentralization, the formation of rural and local self-government. Many questions come from this part. And the question like, define decentralization. What is the rationale behind decentralization? That can also come. It can also come that why decentralization has become a necessity. I have explained you that why it has become a necessity. It has become a necessity because the villages of our countries are very large. They are very large in population also, and there is diversities also, and it is not possible for state government to administer and control it. This answer will come with what is the rationale behind panchayats. The question can also come that how or discuss the formation of rural and urban local self-government. In that you have to write about the three-tier system. You also have to write about municipal corporation, municipality. The question can also come about what is Gram Sabha and what are its functions. These type of questions can come. And the answers I have already discussed and I have already explained you. The thing is, you have to take out your books, you have to read what I have taught you, you have to see whatever extra notes I have given you in your video, and then you can write the answers. These questions can come, what is decentralization? The question can also come in a short form that, who is the head of the Zilla Parishad known as? Who is the political head of municipal corporation? The answer I have given you, mayor, Zilla Parishad chairperson. So many questions can come from the part that I have taught you. So now, children, your homework will be first to solve the exercise questions, and second, whatever questions I have given you while teaching, if you have noted down from the different parts, from starting of my chapter only, from first part of federalism, I have given you many questions. You have to write down the answers to these questions. And if you have any confusion, we'll discuss those confusion in the next class or when we'll do the revision classes. So for today, this is enough. You have completed the chapter federalism. Your work will be to write down the answers. Short questions. Children, you know I have taught you in class 9th also. In class 9th, how you prepare your notes. First, you write down the short questions. Minimum 15 I have told you or 20. And after that, whatever questions I have given you, extra questions also while teaching. After every paragraph, I have given you the questions. You note down those questions if you have noted it. If you have any confusion, you ask me in the doubt section. I'll give you the questions again and you write down the answers and post it in the video. I will check it and give it to you. So this chapter is finished. In the next class, we'll start with the new lesson of civics, that is gender, religion and caste. So for today it is enough. Thank you, children.